this world doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe you nothing. You have to go out there and get it. And when you're laying in bed in the morning time and not getting up and sleeping until noon, the world's still turning. There are people out there that are advancing themselves, making themselves better, and they're going after their dreams and the desires they want in life. You got to go out and you got to put the effort in, and you got to make things happen, because it's just not going to be given to you.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another week at the Mindtality podcast. I'm your host, Rodolfo Felix.
Co-host Eric Ogaz.
And Eric, as you can see, we do have a special guest. You want to do a little bit of an introduction here?
Yes, we have the man, the myth, and the legend, my dad, Eric Ogaz. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Can you give us what your career path is, or just a brief overview?
Well, I'm Eric's dad. My name's Eric, obviously. Eric Jason, and my son is Eric Ryan. My career path has just been in law enforcement. I've been in it for 24 years now. I've done a lot in law enforcement, everything from starting off with the jails to the dive team, to gang teams, to gang intel, to SWAT, patrol, and obviously now I'm in homicide. So it's been a good career, and I'm kind of winding it down. I'm down to my last, hopefully, 4 years, and retire it.
Wow,
Awesome.
that's a really big resume.
Yeah, man. Eric, if you don't mind, I want to shoot the first question. No pun intended. How long have you been a sheriff again? What was that number?
24, going on 25 years.
20, so quarter of a century, huh? I'm gonna take another one. So if you want to just give us a background, what is a typical, like, how many hours do you put in a week? What's a typical work week look like to you? What type of day do you see yourself working in? The AM early or late in the PM?
Well, every assignment is different. Right now on homicide, we work a lot of hours. Our typical shift is Monday through Thursday from 7 to 5. But however, when we're on call and we're first up or we're second up, and first up is basically if the homicide comes in, our team's the one that goes out to go handle that. Those hours could be crazy. Like this week alone, I've done two 22-hour days, 24-hour day.
Wow.
I had a homicide that was far out in the county I'm at, which I won't say what county I'm at. I'll see on the podcast. But the county I'm at is very large. It's one of the biggest counties in the United States.
That's crazy. I can't imagine running a 22-hour shift. So let's talk about that a little bit, though. What goes through your mindset when you go through a 22-hour shift?
Well, basically, you go through phases. You know, when you first get out, you know, you're very focused on what you're doing, and you have what you call your second wind, and then your third wind. What I mean by that, you get to the point where you're very exhausted, especially if you're trying to do interviews, you're doing something like that, and you're done, and you just kind of grind it out. And what helps me is I look at my partners, and I know they're going through exactly what I'm going through. And if they can do it, I can do it too, and we kind of support each other. Teamwork is huge through that, and recognizing when one of us is getting tired, the other one picks the other person up, and you get your second wind. And after you get your second wind, it's like you're wide awake again. It's weird. You'd be totally exhausted. You get a second wind, you're wide awake, and then you get exhausted again eventually, and then you get your third wind, and you just got to keep fighting through it and just until the job's done, because you just can't. In homicide, you only get one shot at these things, and you have to be very thorough, and you can't allow fatigue to allow you to be complacent and miss things, because ultimately there are family members out there that are hurt, you know, over the loss of a family member, or someone just lost their life, and you want to do the very best you can for that individual.
Awesome. So question here. I guess I'll go with this one first. Is this what you've always wanted to do? Is to be a homicide detective?
I wanted to take my career as far as it possibly could. Homicide was not on the top of my list. I'm more like with homicide, when we're not on call, we are at the office for 8 hours straight, just typing. just typing reports. When I got into law enforcement, I like to be outside. I like to do things. I'm very active. That part's been hard for me. But at this stage of my game, my age and everything else, homicide's a good spot for me. But it wasn't my ultimate goal.
I think that's interesting how I've seen you develop throughout your career path. Like you had said, you had always been a very outside, active person, but because of your circumstances of your job, it requires you to be in the room report writing and making sure that every sentence is typed out correctly so the prosecutors can, have a good case on their hand. So how important is it to be able to adapt and work on weaknesses within your field? Like, for example, report writing or learning how to kind of deal with the uncomfortability of in your job.
Well, Eric, of all people, you know me the best, being my son. You know, I'm not the most sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to English and writing and everything else. And matter of fact, in high school, I was probably voted the most likely not to succeed. So writing has been a struggle, but my writing skills are so far advanced now. And that's because of the support of my teammates and of course my sergeant. When I first got there, I've been writing reports before I got to homicide for 22 years. I never had an issue. I've always had filings, always got convictions. And it was the way I wrote. When you write in homicide, it's a different style of writing. You write in what's called past tense. And everything is very scrutinized, your reports. And I remember one of the first reports I turned in, my lieutenant, he's my lieutenant now, but at the time he was my sergeant, he red inked the hell out of it. I mean, it looked like it was a trauma victim. But we call it bleeding. That report was bleeding everywhere. And I was discouraged. I got it back. He had so much red ink in it that he also had to start sticking Post-its on it with arrows.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I still have that. I wish I had it. I would show it to you guys. You would laugh. But you want to talk about mindset, what I think what your podcast is about, is that was very discouraging to me. And I went, holy, crap, what did I get myself into here? And I just started working harder at it and harder at it and harder at it. Now, I still get read back reports like everybody else, but it's nothing, it's very small little things. It's nothing that's major. And I just kind of, I could have just given up and said, this is not me. Send me back out to SWAT or send me back out to patrol, let me do my thing, or detective someplace. But I wanted to succeed at it. Like I've always told Eric, anything you do, you try to be the best at. And if the guy next to you could do it, you could do it too, and you could probably do it better.
I love that. Very well said. And it just had me thinking, at what point did you tell yourself, I think I'm gonna be okay? Like, was there a point where it was the writing where you felt like, man, just put me somewhere else. Writing's not my strength. If this requires a lot of writing, forget it. But no, you wanted to work towards it. Was there ever a scene that you arrived to, or whatever it may be, where you were at the crossroads, whether you were like, okay, I'm gonna do well in this field, or you just kind of like contemplate? Well, obviously you chose that you're gonna continue to pursue this field, but was there ever a time where you questioned, like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this career?
Cut out for the career or for homicide?
For homicide, I'm sorry.
Actually, no. I mean, when I got the report back, that's one thing that I do, and Eric knows. I looked at it, and I didn't think to myself I couldn't do it and I couldn't make it. I just laughed.
Yeah.
I know I've been through too much in my life, and I've been through too much in my career I've learned not to hit stumbling blocks like that, where I look at something like I can't do it. I know I could do it, and I think what I try and do to get through my career and also get through life is just be humble and realize, even though I've been doing this job for 22 years, I never had a problem with my reports. Obviously, being humble, you know that you always have room to growth and improve. And I don't feel like I hit a stumbling block. I just kind of laughed it off and like, okay, well, I know what I got to do, and just grind it out.
Yeah, that's a really good mindset to have and talk about when you face adversity like that you kind of don't view it like as a negative, but more of an opportunity to get better and be better at the position that you want. Because you had said previously that you were trying to just be the best that you can be in whatever you're doing, and you view, I guess, criticism as an opportunity to be better in whatever you're doing. So, I mean, you've been working for the department for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's taken you progressively to get to the position you're at, right? You didn't just get this position overnight. So my question is like, what advice could you give to people that are out there in their career paths that are going and working, but not necessarily haven't had the opportunity to move up yet, right? They're in this kind of complacent part, or where they're not really receiving the opportunities, you know, that you've had. So what would you say to those people that are in this position, just as you were when you were working to get that higher position?
I'll say the same thing that I've always told you growing up. This world doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe you nothing. You have to go out there and get it. And when you're laying in bed in the morning time and not getting up and sleeping until noon, the world's still turning. There are people out there that are advancing themselves, making themselves better, and they're going after their dreams and the desires they want in life. You got to go out and you got to put the effort in, and you got to make things happen, because it's just not going to be given to you.
Excellent. So rumor has it that are you 100% on your solve rate?
Our team is 100% on the solve rate. I'll say that our team is.
Okay. And just the bird flew in the
You're
window.
such a brat. That's something we joke about. I've been very fortunate on the cases that I've received. I have not got cases that have been. We had some cases that are pretty complex, but I've been very fortunate. And I would say this: my team is 100%, and that's because of the hard work, and also before every call I get, I pray.
Yeah.
And I just tell God to help us through this case, and it's your will that we solve it. Just give us the strength in our minds to work, and in our eyes to see, and to do your will in what we're doing. And so I guess that, ultimately I give everything our credit to God and
You've
His
mentioned
will.
a couple of times about team. How important is it to be able to work with a team? I mean, of course, it's important in your career profession, but let's just talk about from outside, maybe in different other careers or other professions. How important is it to be able to work with a team, and what mindset do you have when communicating with a team? Like, how do you deal with their weaknesses and strengths?
Well, you feed off each other's weaknesses and strengths. There are certain members on my team that are so great at some of the things that they do. That's a weakness for me, and vice versa. There's some things that I do really well that are weaknesses on their part, and that's what makes a team. Is we feed off of that, and we assist each other. They know if I'm better at something, I'm going to help them with that, or I'm going to do that, and vice versa. When there's certain things that I kind of struggle with, I'll go to my partners and say, hey, can you help me with this? And we work together. It's like anything else. If you accomplish more as a group than you would ever accomplish as an individual.
Yeah, you would think for your title as being a homicide detective that it's solo, like you want your work to be your work. But no, I'm really surprised to hear that teamwork's crucial in solving cases, which makes sense if you really think about it. Next question: do you like watching TV shows like 48 Hours, Unsolved Mysteries, true crime like that? No. No, I wouldn't imagine. I always wanted to ask that question, because you try to, I mean, for me, of course, not being a detective, I'm trying to look for loophole. I'm trying, okay, what did they miss? What could have they done better? I've always wanted to ask, so it's no, huh? Across the board, so when it's on, you turn the corner, or
To me, they're so not realistic. Like
okay.
Obviously in SWAT, for instance, I'm not SWAT, in homicide. When we get a suspect we want to get and track down, we have to give it to our SWAT team to go do. In these TV shows, they always show the detective kicking in the door, and a SWAT team for some reason is behind the detective. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so, and they lift the fingerprint off of a coarse rock, and I remember on patrol, excuse me,
No
I remember
worries.
on patrol, I would go to a crime scene for like a burglary or something like that, and someone threw a rock through the window, and it's like a rock that's, you know, just this big, just big enough to break the window for them to kind of get in there. And they're telling me, well, can you dust that rock for fingerprints? And I'm like, I can't get a print off that. And we saw it on CSI. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's CSI. So yeah, no.
Okay, I wouldn't imagine. And there's a lot of criminal or true crime TV shows out there. I just always wondered if there's detectives out there trying to better each other's investigations. What's the most gratifying thing for you for your position at this time right now?
I would have to say, you know, when we solve a case, you know, there's times we become family members with the victim's family, and you communicate with them. And we had a case I'm working now, where I sat down with the wife, and then the sister, and the brother-in-law, and you know, to see what they're going through, and to try and take that off of them, let them know that we never obviously could bring the victim back, but we could at least bring some type of peace, knowing that the subjects that harmed them and took their life are going to be held responsible, and they're not just going to be running around, you know, partying it up, and there'd be some type of closure as far as that's concerned.
Mhm.
So that part is important to me.
You've said that, well, just listening to you and kind of everything, it sounds like it's a very difficult job. And I'm not saying kind of discrediting or anything like that. Like, it's got to be very difficult to be able to work 22-hour shifts, have to deal with dead bodies, and talk to families that are just broken down. How do you come home and, I don't know, I guess, detox or figure out a way to relieve stress, to manage your kind of mental and physical ability to be able to go in and work the next day and continue to do your best that you can?
Well, I think you've seen, Eric, through the years, you know, it's kind of like having your second win, your third win. In this career, I went through phases. I went through phases where, when I first started, I was curious. You know, when I would see someone, you know, like a death, or, you know, a traffic accident, and I wanted to learn more about it. Then it got to a point where, you know, things started bothering me a little bit. So then you find other ways to deal with it, that you may just kind of joke it off, or make, you know, comments that probably aren't, you know, exactly the best things to say, but you're trying to mentally not take it all in. Because if you
Mhm.
take it all in, after a while, when you see so much of it, it can really play with you. Then I had phases where I would just get angry. I would get angry about what people were capable of, and why they would do such a thing, and things just don't surprise you. Um, and I went through a bunch of different phases, I think, to the point where I think the biggest thing that's helped me now is just my relationship with God, and to know that, you know, He helps me through these things, and I look more forward in my career now for my time with my family and being off. And I just kind of put that stuff out. You know, it's not going to change. It's not going to change when I retire. It's still going to continue to happen. God's using me right now to do His will, and to do the best job I can, and then I'm going to be done. But in the meantime, while I'm here, I'm going to try and help as many people as I possibly can, and bring closure to people. But I don't know if there's a right. I don't know if I answered your question. I just think, like I said, I give it to God, and that has brought me the biggest peace I've ever had when it comes to getting through this career, than all the times where I was trying to figure it out myself, where I was trying to use my own, like I said, joking, or getting angry, or whatever. Now that I've given it to God, I don't feel that pressure anymore. I'm more at peace. If
That's
that
good.
answers your question.
No, that does,
Yes.
definitely 100%. What's a characteristic that's essential for maybe those who are interested, maybe of becoming a sheriff or a police officer, and then down the line, you know, testing and stuff for promotions for the detective position? Is it a scale? Like, do you start with robberies first? Do you start with stolen bikes first? Is it a progression that leads to homicide, and like you develop the characteristics, or is it something that you just have or you don't have?
I think when you first get into law enforcement, you have to make sure you get into it for the right reasons. Um, if you're getting into it because you're watching all these TV shows and it makes it look so glamorous and glorified, you know, they blow up a whole city and then they're out at the bar 10 minutes later, you know, having a beer and you know, relaxing on a beach. It's just not that way. If you get into it for the right reasons, that you actually want to help people, and have people feel safe when they're at home at night sleeping, you know, that someone breaks in their house, that there's going to be someone there that's going to help them and get them out of that situation. Get into it for the right reasons, and then everything else will take care of itself. If you're in it for the wrong reasons, this job will eat you up and spit you out. You have to have the right heart for it.
That's interesting. Just the fact that the mindset that you have of going into it, that you have to already kind of predetermine your goals and what you want to get out of it before you go into it. Because a lot of people, when they go in their career path, they don't necessarily have a direction or a goal or mindset that they're looking to get out of it when they join. So I think it's really interesting, a good point that you made, that you have it already predetermined when you go into this career path of what you want to accomplish and kind of what you want to do. So I guess that's really important point that you had made. But you're coming up, you had just talked about you're getting ready to retire. So what do you do when you're done? Does the grind stop, or do you continue to find some different way to work, or is it just relaxation time?
Well, in law enforcement, I know statistically, once people retire, you know, they don't have that long of a life expectancy. And I think that's because you're always at a higher stress level every day, and adrenaline, and everything else. So you have to find ways to still be active and still get your little adrenaline rushes, I guess. So I don't know, I have a plan. You know, my plan is, you know, like that song, drinking, fishing, hunting every day. You know, I just want to, my goal is one day to retire someplace like in Idaho or Montana and hunt and take care of my property. And you got to have something to do. I mean, just because you're retired, if you sit on that couch, you're going to die on that couch. You got to have something to do. I just want to have like a small ranch where I could take care of a small amount of animals, give me a purpose every single day, and actually learn how to horseback ride and just kind of walk my, you know, horseback ride around my land and just thank God for the grace, you know, that I've made it through this career.
Sweet. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the very last question here, and it's kind of irrelevant for what we've been talking to. How long does the training process go as for interviewing? Because I know interviewing is very crucial. You
Oh, you're
learn
talking about
about
interviewing? You
as
talking
a
about
you
interviewing
said,
in an interrogation?
yeah, like an interrogation, like the training that goes into it. Is it a lot of it shadowing your partner as an apprentice, or is there actually like segment like courses that you have to sit in on, or how does that exactly work? That's one thing I've always wondered about.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously numerous classes I've taken. Actually, before I was even in law enforcement, I was a district investigator, and I did caught shoplifters. But as a district investigator, I was in charge of stores. Like one of them was Robinson's May, and we were in charge of employee theft. And so even from a young age, we would catch an employee stealing, but then, you know, we caught them, but we know that they've probably stolen a bunch more prior to. They just now got caught. So we'd have to interview them and get them to admit to us about thefts we didn't know about, so we could try and get back restitution for the past losses. So I've been doing it, God, just about my whole life. Before Eric was born, I was doing that. In law enforcement, there's two phases. There's the interview phase and there's the interrogation phase. The interview phase is where we're basically talking with somebody, trying to see their tell signs, you know, when they're lying, and their normal responses in their conversations compared to when you hit them with the uncomfortable question, you know. And the interrogation part is when you get to the actual accusing phase, where you actually got to the point where now you think you could go into interrogation, where you can now break them open and get them to tell you the things that a lot of times that you already know, but it's just getting their side of the story. Because one thing I'll tell you about about homicide, nine times out of 10, we always know where something happened and when something happened. And then we figure out how something happened. But when you sit down and you interview somebody, there's one thing that we don't know, and that's why. Why did something happen? And that goes a long ways even for that person that we're talking to by just telling us why. So, but anyways, get back. I got off on a tangent, but getting back to interviewing, yeah, it's an art, I would say. And we went through numerous classes, and also just on job experience on patrol. You're interviewing people for whatever. You stop them and they got drugs on them. Where they bought their drugs at. You get some for burglary. What other houses did they burglarize? So yeah, I would say it's art, and it takes a lot of years of application of actually doing it, and then it takes also a lot of schooling to learn techniques and pick up things that you could use and that works for you.
Okay. And I do see, again, unfortunately, I have to reference to these TV shows. I do see like these interrogations go as long as 4 to 5 hours. Is there some truth to that? And what's the longest you've had an interrogation go on for?
Oh, 4 to 5 hours, I would say, is an average.
Really?
Is an average interview, even on witnesses sometimes. Yeah, they're long processes. I don't know what the longest I've been. I'd probably say the longest maybe close to 8 or 9 hours.
Oh.
And there's times, don't be wrong, you take breaks.
Yeah,
Stop here, we're gonna take a break and when we say you take a break, you don't take a long break.
Okay.
You take maybe like a 10-minute, 5-minute, just to get your thoughts back.
Mhm.
And then you go back because you can't let off. You got as long as they're talking, you want them to keep talking.
Okay.
And if you take too long of a break, they may say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm done, I don't want to talk no more. So you want to, as long as they're talking, you want to keep talking with them, and yeah, so they're long. They're long.
Oh, cool. You have anything else for him, Eric?
No, I think we covered a lot of good points today.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining the podcast. It was an honor to be able to talk to a detective. 2v1. If Eric, you don't got anything else, that's going to conclude our podcast for this week. Is there anything you had to say, Eric, before we end this podcast?
Eric,
either one of you.
Go ahead, son.
Just a reminder for everybody, just if they're having a struggle this week, to continue to work hard, and that things will look positive, and your time will come. Just as my dad says, it's not an instant thing. It's not a goal that just comes to you within a couple of weeks. It's a progressiveness. It's a constant work. It's constant battle of the mind and the body. So continue to persevere and work hard.
I agree with what my son said. Just keep working hard and don't let things get you down. Just everyone goes through struggles. Everyone goes through adversity, and adversity is what makes you strong. You got to push through that. The second you give it into adversity, you stop moving, and you just got to keep moving one foot in front of the other every day.
Perfect. I love it. And just really quick before I close off the podcast, there's a couple points that I would like to just emphasize, and then I'll wrap it up. We heard Mr. Eric, the father here, talk about how important it is to lean on his teammates. And that's something that we can apply both in the classroom when you have classmates, and then in their workplace. If you don't know something, ask, and then tell yourself, if they could do it, I could do it as well. And then, like you mentioned, I could do it better. So I just wanted to emphasize that. The second thing that he mentioned was just being humble, because that leaves space in your life to learn and to grow. That's another thing that we can apply every single day. There's nothing that we'll know everything about. There's always room to grow. And again, just whatever he sees his teammate or his partner is weak on, that may be his strength, and vice versa. So always have that mindfulness, always have that eye to grow. And one thing I just applaud you with is 25 years of service. Thank you for that. That's more than I've been alive. And that's commitment.
Great.
No, really. And that's commitment. It really is. And I just can't imagine I mean, it's hard for me. I'm 23, just thinking about what would I spend 25 years in, and it's almost discouraging, but it gives me hope to know that what you did is you put your mind to something and you made a commitment to it. And then that's how you also kind of keep it fresh. And as you constantly, you find your detox and you find what you're looking for in the future. You mentioned, being in a ranch, in the future, and that in itself gives you some inspiration. And that teaches me, like, okay, what's after my 25 years, what do I look forward to doing? And man, again, just thank you so much for hopping on here with us. You're more than welcome to come any other time that you would like. You can just let Eric know. But that's going to do it for our podcast. If you guys don't have anything else to say, that's going to do it.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
Of course. All right. Thank you.